Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Robert Hancock, and I'm with Zinier, and we're going to go through a session today and talk about the customer service starts with your field technicians. It's conversations about technician centricity. As we all know that our brands, our companies, our services are all extended all out over the world into homes and businesses, and our technicians are the furthest reach of that extension. And so we want to talk about that a bit today. If you have questions, feel free to respond to your reminder email and we'll go through those or catch up with you afterwards. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to begin by telling a little story about myself. Recently, I needed to have new internet service set up in a new home. And it really was a matter of convenience. I had an internet service provider, et cetera. The pressure for having high performing internet has really gone up for many of our telco friends in the marketplace, really because so many people are working from home and the demands for video conferencing, just like we're doing now, have gone up so much. There was service in the old house with the same vendor, so we made the call to switch in the new house. So the decision was also made. The vendor said, hey, why don't you just pick up your equipment, move it over to the new house? And it seemed like a fairly easy use case. In this case, the provider chose a third-party provider to come out and set up my internet and make sure that I was all working. It was an authorized agent. And although the provider advised that their own technicians could be scheduled to the hour, these third-party technicians were given a 2 to 3 hour window. The time was set for noon, and as luck would have it, the provider showed up around 11 o'clock. He was lucky that someone was home, as the move date was the following day, and the home was currently empty, and I happened to be here. Several problems happened immediately. Number one of which, obviously, he showed up early. But number two, there was fiber in the neighborhood, but there was no fiber line ever run to this home. So though they had some type of service, it wasn't fiber. And the call center must have known that the company had actually never run any service to this house, because the technician was not aware, though the modem was here, that nothing in the house supported that fiber, and there was actually no fiber run from the road. Though the technician had experience doing this work, he had no experience with the older model router that we had, and he just started doing fiber installs within the last 45 days. And he had 5 feet of fiber left on his truck, just 5 feet. Clearly his customer, the national fiber provider, had failed him. The technician standing in front of me, and he's now unprepared to complete his job, but also having to be conscious of the fact that if he does fail to do it, the customer is going to blame him. Up until this point, the customer experience wasn't bad, but the technician experience is now about to cause a change in that. Where did it all go wrong? How could it have gone right? And we want to really think about technician centricity and how that can be used, and those concepts used to really make a very good, effective customer service process by enabling the customer and making him the center of your focus. So for past several years, many field service organizations on behalf of their companies and services and brands have been focused on improving the customer experience. There's been significant innovation in these areas and progress in improving the satisfaction of the customer journey. Some of these innovations have come from more effective scheduling solutions that enable the right technician with the right skills and the right parts to arrive at the right place at the right time. And these are all really pillars to both satisfying the expectation of the customer, as well as doing and so in a cost-effective and profitable fashion. As the world became dependent on things like Uber and Lyft and Postmates and many of these other services, they've come to expect that from all of their other service providers. They're no longer satisfied with these 2 to 4 hour service windows and waiting to see if somebody actually shows up. They expect to be able to go about their day normally, and perhaps just before the technician leaves to come, or perhaps just as he's about to arrive, they get notified and they can simply go out and meet them. And these are obviously really simplified use cases. And indeed, there's many organizations out there that have not been able to solve these problems. The technology and the capability is there. As we think about how we can kind of take these concepts of technician centricity and really break them down in some basic areas of concern or areas of thought on how we can do a good job enabling these technicians to be effective and efficient on site, we want to think about some of the concepts you see here. Provide a mobile-first experience that's tailored to different user and work types. In many cases, people build an experience and they put it on a laptop or perhaps even a large tablet. But the reality is, in this world, especially with millennials in the workforce, that simple device of a phone is really, the standard way people are engaging in content. If you look at brand websites and Facebook and other places, there's somewhere in the 70 to 90% range is doing it all on the phones. So you really do need to think about the way people are consuming data and provide that data to them in a way that understands that consumption on that mobile device. By focusing on technician centricity, you also increase data visibility from the field to the back office. The technicians need to be able to capture data that's in your systems already and understand, say, the history of that location, the history of those assets, et cetera. You want to enable them to make game time decisions. If you have a technician that goes out on site and they fail because they're not able to access some document or some material information or pictures, whatever that thing might be, you can't make that game time decision after the fact. You've already lost that opportunity to satisfy the customer. Some other ways to ensure that you're focusing on your technician's capabilities and making a technician-centric decision, you want to leverage artificial intelligence and data analytics to enhance the technician's on-the-ground knowledge. That can be done through things like a fix workflow. If you've got technicians that maybe are underskilled or perhaps relatively new, you want to take that information, that historical information of the work that's done on those assets or that piece of equipment, and feed that back to them through a really easy to use AI-based mobile interaction. He puts in, I've experienced this, and the next thing is go try that. And you can really do that and make the job easier for the technicians. And again, reach those CSAT satisfaction rates that you really want to get to. You want to enable that technician to scope and plan more effectively. You want to provide them with all the information of what they're going to be doing the next day, the day after, as much as you know in the time that you know it, so they can really double check their assets in their van or make sure they've ordered equipment or contact a customer, whatever way they can do that. Again, enabling that technician to really succeed is your key benefit from that preparation. You want to make sure to also deliver seamless customer communication. The reality of this world is a technician's moving very fast. They have high demands on their time. And so you want to make sure that they can communicate with the customer and say, I'm on my way, or I'm going to be late. Is it okay if I can come later? You want to make sure they can do that in the mobile app so they don't have to move around, that they have ready access to that customer's required way of communicating, text message, phone call, et cetera. And then again, you want to maximize on-site focus. You want to make sure that those technicians are delivering what matters, high levels of customer service, and that they're completing the job quickly. So we'd like to think about things like telco and fiber space in this use case that we talked earlier. And there really is a mixture in some cases of W-2 and external contractors to deliver service. That's the situation I had when I had internet hooked to this home here. While a brand may be able to tightly control the experience for their own employees, the further the work gets away from the source, the ability to enforce process goes down exponentially. The appliance space has actually been this way for many years. A large appliance brand may depend on as many as 5,000 to 8,000 different services organizations, ranging from large retail service brands all the way down to mom and pop, and in many cases, one-man shop appliance repair companies. These organizations typically work from a dispatch model where they send the job at some time in the future. If it's a warranty job, they get billed back from the provider when he wants to be paid. The brand really has no idea what's happening in the middle. The source has no control over what device they use, what data plans they purchased, what work schedule is. The answer is that they're either expect them to use the same mobile experience as their own technicians or to have no expectation at all. This is not the service organization's fault necessarily, as most, if not all, field service solutions in the market fail to enable them to have a different user experiences for different types of users. The true way to enable a really technician-centric view is to look at these user types differently. Internal technicians can be supported through native mobile apps on their company device, while third parties can be enabled through mobile web or simply web access, but provided all of the key capabilities that they need in order to effectively deliver on that service. All the information that you have internally, inventory, schematics, help documentation, previous history of the account, and work that's been done. In this case, the technician was shielded from all that information. My technician that was here, he didn't know. And so he was unable to plan or really expect what he found when he got here. His experience was not optimized, and due to that failure, not only was the initial job late and troublesome, but the 2 other jobs following that had to be rescheduled and rerouted because he ended up spending more time here than was originally anticipated. There's a lot of other scenarios where this technician-centric view can enable a more streamlined and effective experience. Many brands struggle with information capture and are forced to adopt additional form solutions to append their current field service solutions. This leads to even further frustrations due to the bouncing back and forth between applications and the likelihood that at some point technicians just aren't going to do it. Having to go from their core field service application and bouncing to a forms application to fill out data is really a high ask for somebody who's got 70, 80 miles to drive in a day and 6 or 8 jobs. These are built out as standard and deployed across a solution so that they're forced to do that. An example of some of these challenges and how they lead to further frustrations is that you might have 4 or 5 different pieces of equipment that a servicer might encounter in a given day. And during that initial encounter, an inspection has to be done, and they move from the inspection form. The form has 40 questions, or about 8 to 10 per equipment type. Why then does the technician not automatically get the 10 questions associated with that piece of equipment that they're about to use? Why are they forced to scroll through 30 questions that they're not going to answer? It's really the same problem from a different angle. Really, by providing these capabilities, these unique user experiences by user type, by work type, it enables those technicians to quickly and efficiently deliver on their service obligation while minimizing their exposure to challenges, and again, speeding you through to that positive customer experience. So 4 phone calls. That's how many calls that a technician has to make while doing a fiber install that came to me. 4 phone calls. He had one to make sure that the services sold could be, could be delivered to that home, find out if service had ever been done in the home before, get someone to find some fiber and bring it to him, and finally to get the dispatcher to reschedule the rest of the day. Once again, he'd been failed by a service application and by the provider. If indeed the technician had been an employee and using their field service management mobile solution, he would have likely been able to find out some of these and at least been able to look at those maybe the morning before and said, okay, I've got a problem. I don't think this site has fiber. So some of that could have been done ahead of time, separating from the fact for a moment that the dispatch and scheduling system should have been sending off some bells and whistles about this job, that parts were not going to be available, that fiber was not ready. That checklist of, is this job ready to schedule, was obviously not gone through, or the checklist was weak. Could they create a mobile app exclusively for this particular contractor and quickly enable him to realize that he'd need 100 feet of fiber, some other parts, a quick look at the user manual to determine what he needed to do, or maybe grab a coworker, bend his ear for some advice. Immediately he could have notified the dispatcher of the issue and gotten ahead of the game with rescheduling appointments, or indeed reschedule the first appointment for the end of the day, given the fact that he didn't have materials and perhaps he could have those brought to them, etc. There were just so many opportunities to succeed. And let's go ahead and move on. I want to talk to you guys a little bit more about these 4 phone calls again. Again, this technician came to the home. He had to make 4 phone calls while he was here. And they really are a problem. Not only are they taking time, but now neither of the 2 people are working. These calls did a few things. First, they built a significant amount of anxiety and concern on the part of the customer. Hey, that's me. I was very concerned and anxious. I was supposed to go back to my other home that I was moving from and help pack up boxes, etc. I didn't expect to be sitting aside 3 to 4 hours waiting on my internet to be done. Not only had I blocked 3 hours of time in that window, but now the time finally arrived, there's a big question that the next day that they'd be right back in the same position with a first-time fix failure. The second things these calls did was make it very obvious that this brand who was chosen to deliver fiber has a very broken process, that they would allow a technician to be on site and be in such bad shape to be successful. I think the questions start to come up like maybe I should have switched. No wonder these guys go down all the time. These are not good questions for a customer to be thinking about during a new service install. Enabling technicians, both W-2 and third-party technicians, to interact in a mobile experience can be an excellent way to aid them in doing the work and also to have the process be smooth when it comes to the customer experience. Excuse me. You can utilize artificial intelligence to work with the technician to execute just the right steps necessary and indeed get the job done right. It can actually look at previous work that are identical and forecast the steps that might be necessary to help them succeed. It could tell you the last technician who did the exact same work and then open a chat dialogue between the technicians to say, hey, I'm at this house and I'm working on this type of job. Can you help me? Let's also remember that AI could be used to make sure that you never showed up in the first place without more than 5 feet of fiber. After the job's done, the technicians documented everything in this unique mobile experience, and the AI can be used to help you move on to the next one. So let's talk a bit about something unique to me. I think it's probably pretty common, and that is my Apple Watch having become a great source of reminders for me. I collect wristwatches, but somehow I'm always challenged with wearing my Apple Watch on my right wrist so that I can wear my normal watch on my left. So I end up wearing my Apple Watch. It's become a consistent source of reminder for me. When I wake up, I can get a quick reminder of what's in store for me in the morning. Indeed, if I have enough time for a little snooze button action. If we apply a similar lens to a technician's experience, we can see where enabling them with information quickly and easily can start their day off well. What are the key factors that a technician might need to be aware of in the morning to help them get started well? How can we enable these deskless workers to be champions in the field? In our use case above, providing an inventory reminder that notifies the technician of all the potential inventory necessities for the day. This can include not just serialized parts that may be in the work order itself, but also things that he needs on the truck, from consumables and tools and other items. Hey, reminder, grab 100 feet of fiber. You may need it today. Could AI be used to provide a series of tips? The technician's never been to this neighborhood before. So there's a reminder for new neighborhood alert. Check the graphic for all of the key install points and where the network box is in the network in the neighborhood, et cetera. What if the technician sees in this view that there's an outage in a nearby house? Is there a chance that he could pick that job up after or before that particular job he's scheduled for? Is there a crime in the area? Has there been a stolen vehicle that he needs to safeguard his truck? Taking a technician-centric view of this work order execution can enable a technician to not just lean on the information provided in the work order header, but also to become a master at planning the day effectively and delivering excellent service. So let's go back and talk about customer experience. Let's not forget about it. It isn't any less important now than it was before, but we can both look at customer experience and technician experience together, and by doing so effectively, can deliver an even better customer experience. In scenarios where you dispatch and appointment window details may be different for varying types of work, part of the organization may be specifically automated to notify the customer, but you can still rely on such capability outside of the core internal technician. If you decouple automated scheduling and appointment windows from the customer experience, as happens so often with third parties especially, you could still approximate the experience by enabling the technician to initiate communication and notification on their own. In our case above, what if by chance the third party had an experience unique to him that was simple and clear? He starts travel, he arrives on site, or she. He's delayed 4, 5, 6 steps in the install, and finally, customer signature, customer sat survey. The customer then knows the technician's on the way, gets a text message, an email, even with the 2 to 3 hour window. And better yet, the brand knows it's happening. So the customer knows he's on his way. The brand who's paying him knows he's on his way as well. For the contractor, you also have the ability to now quicken the order to cash scenario for the work that's delivered. In many of these third-party scenarios, the order to cash system is reliant on some time in the future where these orders are batched together and then sent to the provider, and then they have to be double checked that these actually get done. You're able to provide all that evidence right there on the spot from the mobile experience. Aside from these hybrid workforce considerations, is still equally critical to map the technician experience to the customer experience so that Uberization of the whole process works end to end. There's nothing better than when your HVAC system is down, your alarm system is broken, your refrigerator is out, than knowing exactly what is happening throughout the process. This is even doubly so when you start talking about enterprise asset management functions, where you have these big critical pieces of infrastructure or machines and plants that go down, and you need to know, hey, I've got a schedule of trucks that are supposed to come pick up what we've produced today, or I've got a provider that's expecting a lot of deliveries next week. How am I going to respond to him if I don't actually know when this piece of equipment is going to be back up and running? Providing a smooth and easy process customized to these user types and connected to the customer experience process is critical in this nirvana of customer experience. So recently I had a conversation with a customer that exposed a problem. This problem was that they had a very diverse set of users that do a lot of different types of work. Some of their employees had no English language skills and challenges in general interacting with technology, while others were completely capable of tweeting and watching YouTube at the same time. So really different user base. All of these solutions I saw in the marketplace were simply not able to manage this complexity. Having the ability to create a unique user experience based on the technician types, the resource types, the work types, et cetera, is really key. In the scenario here, it was determined that for some portion of these users, that pictographs will be used to illustrate the work, so that it was the technicians were able to actually put a thumbs up or a thumbs down if they had completed that portion of the work. And then really that was it. For each item on the work order, there was an associated picture to represent what the work was, the thumbs up, thumbs down picture to indicate if it was completed. Others that were doing inspections were enabled with forms, with checks and drop-down menus that were more complicated because of the type of their work and the necessity of gathering that information and putting it in the back office, including things like pictures and videos. Multiple different user types in the same place doing the work their own way in a unique experience to them. The technicians and resources can focus on the job they're doing and not on the arduous process of going through needless screens, needless clicks, and wasted time. Again, one other option would be to provide both of these options in the same area. But again, you're wasting screen time by going through the options you don't want to get to the ones you do. So really giving you that, again, singular view that we're looking for. So what does all this mean? Again, enabling these technicians to utilize technology to make them successful in doing their job, feeling good about doing their job, and making the customers happy. Are you enabling your technicians to be successful? Are you making their job easy? Have you seen reviews on your job sites about how difficult interacting with your field service solutions are? Even though you've spent a great deal of time and money trying to make a great customer experience, are you still struggling with customer satisfaction needs? These are important questions, and taking a look at your technician experience with a magnifying glass may point to a need to adjust your focus to one of technician centricity. Indeed, if this is done right, not only will you have the potential for increasing your first-time fix rate, decreasing the length of work of your order delivery, increasing the number of successful service visits in a day, but at the same time, to keep both your customers and your technicians happy. Now, I want to end by saying that Zinier can help you with those challenges. The Zinier platform is really the first of its kind solution that is purpose-built for field services, has a low-code, no-code platform to enable you to build these custom, unique experiences for your technicians, for different work types, for your management team, with configurable AI that can be used and pointed towards your specific use cases to not only help you make decisions now, but utilizing machine learning can help you get better at them over time. With a complete capability to embed within your current existing system. You may already have a field service solution that you like, but you're not happy with the mobile experience. It's not a technician-centric solution. You want to be able to give them that. The Zinier solution can fit in. It's modular. You just need a scheduling solution to help you make sure that the technicians are put in the right place to be successful. All of these are capabilities that we can help you with. So if I could tell you one thing to learn from this, and that is take a really hard look at your technicians. Decide, are these people enabled to be successful at their jobs? Are they capable of making the customers happy? Are they informed in a way that's going to make them good at everything they execute? And if you can't say yes to all that, you really need to take a look at this topic again. Thanks for taking time for us today. I hope you'll join us for our next and many webinars that we'll be offering. And I hope everybody has a great rest of the day.